Hi, guys. Okay, so today's just going to be a Section 2.1 review day. We're just going to do three little problems just to kind of get you guys thinking again. I know you had yesterday off, so nothing big. No homework tonight. The quiz review will be posted tomorrow and a quiz on Monday. Okay? All right, so this first question says that the Candela brothers own two pizza restaurants, one on Park Street and one on Bridge Road. The computer output below summarizes the distribution of weekly revenues. Revenues is money coming in at each of the restaurant, 26 weeks for Park Street and 40 weeks for Bridge Avenue. Okay, so right there, we just want to focus on here that the time difference here for Park and Bridge are different, right? There's 36 weeks versus 40 weeks. Okay, all right, so question A says 1 week Park Street's revenues were 7,500, which was the 15th highest revenue recorded for that restaurant. In the same week, Bridge Road revenue was 7,100, the 12th highest for that restaurant. Use percentiles, right? So that was one of the lessons, and z-scores, which was another one, to compare how successful each restaurant was at that week. Okay, so let's just take this one at a time, and let's talk about Park first. So let's go to Park. And remember that this was 36 weeks for Park. Okay, so if there's 36 weeks and 7,500 was the 15th highest, right? Think about this, right? So I'll just do dots here. So we'll just do 36 dots, which is kind of annoying, but it gives you a good visual. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there's a total of 36 weeks. And so percentile says that if it was the 15th highest, right, this was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So counting backwards, we're at that dot. Okay, so there were 36 total. If you subtract 15, okay, you get 21 values, right? 10, 21 that were below, right? That one. But percentile is that value and those below it. So there's a total of 22 values out of 36, which equals a percent of 61. Okay? And so we have the 61st percentile. What does that mean? Again, that means that this value, okay, of 7,500 was higher than 61% of all of the other weeks. Okay, so that's what a percentile does. So for a z-score, remember what we do is we take our observed value, we subtract the mean, and divide by the standard deviation. So these are weird symbols. We don't need to do that right now. So let's cross that out and let's do just right words divided by standard deviation. Okay, so to find the z-score from the past lesson, you take your observed value, subtract the mean, and divide by the standard deviation. So for this one, you would take the observed value, which was $7,500, and you would subtract the average. So the mean for Park was 6611. And you divide that by not the standard error, the mean, the standard deviation, right? You can see STDEV, which would be 3580. Okay, and when you do that, you get 0.25. Okay, and so what does 0.25 as a z-score mean? Remember, it tells you two things. It tells you how many standard deviations away from the average and direction, right? This is a positive value, so it's to the right of the average. Okay, all right, so let's do the other one. Let's do Bridge, and then we'll compare them. So for Bridge, there was a different number of weeks. There were 40. So we're going to skip the dots and we're going to say, look, if you have 40 total and it says that Bridge Road's revenue was 7,100, the 12th highest, you would subtract 12 to get 28. Okay, but then you can count that one that we were at for a total of 29. So the 12th highest means that there's 29 at or below it out of a total of 40. And when you divide 29 by 40, you get 0.725 or 72.5%. So you're at the 72.5th percentile. Okay. And so let's just talk about the percentiles. Percentiles tell you how much you are compared to everyone else. So this value, right, of $7,100 was the 72.5th percentile, which means 72.5% of all other weeks are below it. So because this is bigger, right, that means that Bridges, even though, right, we talked about this before, even though $7,100 was less money revenue than $7,500 compared to the rest of that restaurant's weeks, it was a higher percentile. So it was a better performance. Okay, to find our z-score, we would take that 7,100, we would subtract the average, right, for Bridge, which was 5,989, and divide by the standard deviation, which was 1,794, and you would get a value of 0.62. Okay, again, this is bigger, and in this case, bigger is better. Okay, bigger is better because this tells you that you're further away from the average. So if on average you're making $5,989, the fact that you made $7,100 was way further above that average than $7,500 was compared to $6,611. Okay, so overall we would say that Bridge Road did better percentile and z-score. Okay, so all we're doing is we're comparing those two things. Okay, so for number 2, it says the weekly fixed operating cost for Park Street revenue is $3,000, which means that the net weekly profit is weekly revenue minus $3,000. Find the mean, median, and standard deviation and the IQR for the net weekly profit. Okay, so all we're doing here to translate this is you have data. And what happens when you add, okay, or subtract money or a value from that data? Okay, so in this case, what happens when you subtract 3,000 from all of these original values? Okay, we're talking about Park Street. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to list, right? They want us to compare mean, median, standard deviation, and IQR. Okay, so I'm going to write those down up here. So the original, we're talking about Park Street, so we're up here at the top. The original mean was 6,611. The original median was 6,600. The standard deviation was 3,580. And IQR is quartile 3, 9,675 minus quartile 1, 3,600. And that should give you 6,075. Okay. And so what I did down here is I just copied down what I said. So we've got this data. Okay. We're talking about Park. That's the restaurant. It's got an average revenue of 6,611, median revenue of 6,600, really, really close, right? Standard deviation of this amount and an IQR of this amount. What happens when you take all of this data and you subtract 3,000? Does it affect everything? Okay. And so let me give you a visual here. This is from a previous lesson. If this was our data and you subtracted 3,000, all of this data just moves to the left, right? It just shifts to the left, okay, 3,000. So does the average change? Absolutely. And so your new mean is going to be affected. It's going to be 6,611 minus 3,000, or 3,611. What about our new median? Our new median, definitely, right? The center, it shifted. So we have to take that 6,600 and subtract 3,000. So we get 3,600. Now let's talk about standard deviation and IQR. The standard deviation is how far, on average, data varies from the mean. Well, this whole thing shifted. The shape doesn't change. And so the standard deviation is the same. Okay? It's equal to 3,580. IQR, right? The distance between here, it's the same. Just because you pick this whole plot of points up and move it left does not change spread values. So your IQR is the same, which is 6075. Okay, so this is a review of what happens to data when you add or subtract. You can go back and watch that lesson. The mean and the median all will be affected, but your measures of spread will not change. Now that's different from when you multiply by a value. Okay, so you have to review that as well. Okay, on the next page we're going to do, and again, if you printed this out to follow along, we are not going to do B, okay? So this is a review of what's called a cumulative relative frequency graph. Sometimes they call it an ogive graph. Whatever it is, it's pretty straightforward, right? Along the x-axis, we have age. And then over here, we have cumulative relative frequency, which again, if you go up to 1, that would be 100%. And so over here, you can get your percentiles. Okay, and so it says below are summary frequency graphs for the age distribution, the population of France and the Philippines. Okay, so Philippines is this dark line and France is the dashed line. And what they want us to do is use the graphs to compare the median. So let's just start there. And so we have the Philippines and we have France. Okay. Okay, let's compare the medians. So let's find the median of both. Well, the median is the 50th percentile. So for Philippines, okay, we come up here and we're going to go not to age because we know that median is the 50% of data is above and below it. So let's go over here, right, to 0.5, which stands for 50%. And as we go straight across here and then straight down here, this dark line is the Philippines. It seems like the median age for the Philippines is 20. If we continue along 0.5 and we hit the dash line and we come down, it seems like we're more like 38, and we can estimate. Okay, and so just comparing the age, right, the age distribution of the population, it seems like people in the Philippines are much younger, right? 50% of the population in the Philippines is less than 20, versus in France, 50% is less than 38. Okay. All right, the only way to do IQR, the interquartile range, is to get quartile 3 minus quartile 1. Well, quartile 3, remember, is 75% and quartile 1 is 25%. And so it's the same game. We'll do IQR for Philippines. And let's go find 75. So 0.75 would be right up here. And so let's go find that of the Philippines. And we can just approximate here. So we scroll down here. It looks like it's around 35. And then 0.25 would be right around there. And if you go to Philippines and drop down, it seems like it might be 8. So I'm going to estimate it's around 27 years old. Okay. I'm sorry, not 27 years old. The distance between quartile 3 and quartile 1 is 27 years. Okay. For France, we already have our labels for 75th percentile, but we have to come all the way over here to France's line and down, which seems more like 52 or something like that. And then subtracting quartile 1, which is 25, it seems like we're at 20 there. Okay. And so we found them. It didn't really ask us to compare them, but just remember this IQR, if you're thinking about a box plot, right, you would go from 8 to 35. So this distance is 27. But over here, to go from 20 to 52, that's a distance of 32. So your box would be bigger. What does that mean? Well, it just means that the middle 50% of ages is more spread out. Okay. The middle 50% of the ages in Philippines is a little bit smaller, right? 27 compared to 32. Okay. All right, you guys. So that was just a quick review. At this point, I know you had Wednesday off. You should have done Monday's lesson, watched it, and done the homework. Same thing for Tuesday. You have a lesson and homework. Today, this is your only lesson. I will obviously post the PDF so you could print this out and follow along. All this stuff is helpful to have for a quiz. So once you watch this, you are good to go. Tomorrow, Friday, I will post a quiz review for a quiz on Monday. Okay. Again, feel free to join my Zooms anytime during the week, and we can chat via Zoom if you need to. Take care.